It being car parking without having windows, can you?
No. Maybe there's a car parking underneath. In the basement of this.
Yeah.
It may go downwards.
Yeah, Mark's suggesting the car parking may go downwards, but I've not heard of any car parking for Radisson Blu. But this is the entranceway to Kohl's that's been shut for quite some time now. But we're just popping onto Cambridge Street. And you can see what I call the Rust Bucket building. But this is a new retail quarter. So the actual work on it looks really good on this area, but what are the rents going to be? That's going to be the big concern. So we're coming up to the back end of Barker's Pool, but somewhere in the middle of all of this lot is going to be the biggest food hall in Europe. Now all the little food businesses in Sheffield, there's too many, are saturated. Like cinema, there's only one unit open that I can find open, and then they're going to open the biggest food hall in Yorkshire in there. Unless what's going to happen in Sheffield is they're going to do what they're doing with Manchester is. Have you heard in Manchester, Mark, they're bringing 200,000 people into the city centre, or that's what they'd like to do.
So building more
high-rises, yeah.
Scrapers. Yeah.
So I wonder if that's what's the plan for Sheffield.
Yeah.
So we're at the back end of the Grosvenor building, which is HSBC's new headquarters. Looking back down, I think it's Garrett Street there. So only the top levels are HSBC's headquarters, so it's not even a quarter the size of the original Griffin House. But you can see the surface down here now, and there was areas where they dug it up and put tarmac down, and you can see they've actually...
It's not long been laid, has it? It's digging up again.
Yeah, but they've actually replaced the tarmac just there now.
I've probably seen your video.
So you can see that this is where they tarmacked it and ruined it, but now they're going to ruin it up there. So we've got Elshaw House, the zero carbon building in Sheffield, but the only problem is with the Elshaw House, when you ask them how much energy they've used in building it versus how much energy they'll save, they can't produce the figures, and they say that's not what they really mean, that it's a net zero building. Well, I think when you catch them out and ask them a real fact and they can't answer it, it's because their agenda's fake. So this is where Henry's bar was, and I think Henry's is going to be reopened at some stage. Whether it'll be Henry's again, I don't know. But Henry's was a trendy bar where I first had a pint in a vase.
Took flowers out first.
Yeah. Looking back down onto Pinstone Street. But it really gives you a flavour for Sheffield now. So what do all you born and bred Sheffielders think? There's plenty of new shop units around here, but we're not filling up the existing shop units. That's the entranceway to HSBC's headquarters. But the funny thing is the banking app don't work anymore. Well, it didn't work this morning, it's been down for 2 or 3 hours. It never works when I use it, and I worked for HSBC for 15 years in Sheffield, and one of my jobs was to make sure there was no single point of failures in the networks. It makes me wonder if there's some single points of failures that they don't find anymore because nobody bothers. Just here where you can see Julia's Cosmetics was Sug Sports, a couple of Sug Sports I remember. One I think on Castle Street and one here. You can see the silver looking building down here. That was an award-winning car park. Looking back up Pinstone Street, there's not a... Well, they basically stopped the buses coming down here. They have got some new green electric buses and they got stolen. I think they admitted to one being stolen, but I think there was more than one stolen. But you can see some of the new work on Heart of the City 2 just here. But I just think it's going to put the rents up quite considerably. I think a lot of it's an overkill. They say things don't meet modern standards, but sometimes the actual old stuff were better standards than the modern. You can see how it now rises well above the existing frontage. And the reason why this building was called Grosvenor was because of the original Grosvenor Hotel here. But that was a 1960s modern building, the Grosvenor Hotel. But somewhere up here on Cambridge Street there was a theatre, really, well, it held about 2,500 just in here. Can't remember the name of that one, but I think that was closed about when I was born in '64. Sweeping round here, 1960s building that didn't look very nice. Mid-city house. It's been knocked down, but the only tragic thing built this 1960s building. Look at Cambridge Street here, and then just here was Cambridge Arcade running right through the middle of here. And I did a video of Rotherham. They've got an arcade in their town centre, and it was just like that. It got Barney Goodman's and various other classy shops in the middle of there. So I'm not sad to see the building go, but why can't we bring the arcade back? We're going to end up with a 25-storey building on this site. So we got Debenhams here, which closed in the second lockdown. There was no chance with Debenhams because the whole company went bust. But John Lewis, we could have done more to save John Lewis. Now, they were going to turn this into like a multi-use place. I think we've got John Lewis in Barker's Pool. That's been turned into a multi-use place by Urban Splash. Don't have a lot of confidence in Urban Splash, but Urban Splash has got hold of the Kohl's building. They were going to turn this into a multi-use building with food units and things, and that's fallen through. I get a feeling it'll end up getting knocked down. But I think this would be a brilliant place for Marks and Spencer's to move to, where it's at least it's got all the rest of the shops with it. Marks and Spencer's going to be in the middle of an events area in the future, and I think Marks and Spencer's have been better off location to this location. I think somebody else may have mentioned that. I don't think it's my original idea. So looking down Furnivall Gate just here, this white building, it used to be two buildings, and the left hand side of it, well, it's one building now, the left hand side of it looked like the blue building you see at the bottom, and that was Redgate's just there. You have to be careful you don't get knocked over, Mark, when you're filming. But really the video more than anything is a snapshot in time Now, one of the biggest problems with Sheffield is they shut the Moor down originally when they started developing Sheffield, but they didn't have the money. I think it was Seven Oaks, a Leeds-based company, and it never got off the ground, so the Moor was shut down for about 10 years. They shut all shops out thinking they were going to do the work. It never happened, so you ended up with loads of empty shops, and then everything started to go pear-shaped after that. But to me, I don't find it classy like the 1960s Moor. Mayo had cars going up and down it, and prior to that trams, but as a 14-year-old, my parents were happy enough for me to come into Sheffield shopping at Christmas with my younger sister. We didn't need safe spaces in the past. Now, this was pedestrianised probably about the 1970s. But find a local Sheffield name on here nowadays is zero. Local Sheffield names, they're all either national or international brands. Basically, the small businesses are being regulated out of the market. So you've got HSBC just here, the only branch left in Sheffield city centre. I think the next one is Meadowhall, Market Street, and then there's one at Crystal Peaks, and that is it. Just up here is the Light Cinema. I could only find one food unit actually in use up there, which you know, they're opening the largest food hall in Europe on Cambridge Street, and they can only fill one unit up in there. Here we've got Burton's. You can always tell a Burton's building. Not as beautiful as some of the Burton's building, but it was a Burton's building, as you can see. That takes you down, I'm trying to think now, Matilda Street. I've got some interesting videos down there of Arundel Street. So we got the Next here. Now, I used to use Next originally when it was on Chapel Walk in the 80s, and the quality versus the pricing was absolutely fantastic with Next. But as a 60-year-old, I think we were more fashionable back then than they are now. I think the fashions are really bland, poor quality. I think we were far more colourful back then with our fashions. Does anybody recognise Sheffield? I'm talking to the born and bred Sheffielders. So you've got your Costa. It's like we've got an Holland and Barrett then. The last time I went in there was such a big queue, the only herbalist left I could remember. We used to have 7 wicker herbalists in the town centre. So I went across to Atkinson's because they've got a herbal department, and I found out they were a lot cheaper, and I've used Atkinson's ever since. The thing is, coming down the Moor, you get accosted by Christians there seems to be Christians everywhere trying to get you to join their whatever. And then you've also got Islamic people, but they're more laid back, they just have a table. But you've got the modern indoor market, which I don't see being anywhere as good as the original Castle and Sheaf markets, and it's destroyed the other end that we came from. As you can see the difference down here compared with the other end. Got Atkinson's here, and Atkinson's is the only Sheffield departmental store left. Most of the other departmental stores got took over years and years ago, but Atkinson's has been able to stand on its own as a family business. I don't know if they've had a lot of private money in, but it's still definitely a Sheffield family business. But like your John Lewis, originally Kohl brothers, that got taken over back in the 1920s. Same with I'm trying to think of Rackham's, Walsh's, they all got took over very early, then they got passed on to somebody else, but Atkins has stood the test of time. So we're getting very close to the end of the tour, but this is what's left of an outdoor market in Sheffield. So people remember what it used to be like at the other end on the Haymarket side, and this is all that is really left. And I think they've actually cut down the number of the number of hours that you can actually open the markets. I think there was a bit of a argument over the opening hours or whatever, because you need to be open to actually make your turnover with your margins. Some people love what they're doing to Sheffield, which I think is the minority, the 20%, and the 80% of us. It makes us absolutely weak what they've done to Sheffield. We don't want it turned into a big university campus, an urbanised living area. And like I say, I know we're never going to go back 100%, but I think we need to go back 50% to what we had before. But you can see the flight developments now all around Sheffield for students. It's where they see you making all the money from. And then finally we've got the Manpower Commission building, where they originally brought people up from London, government building, and now that department's gone. So this building, yeah, council's using it at the moment, but this talk of turning this into the Gardens of Babylon, like a flat complex. But just here we hit a barrier, and at one bit you used to be able to drive straight through here up to 1980. There were trams coming through up to 1960 up here, and I think that's one of the biggest mistakes Sheffield ever made, shutting down the tram network that brought people in from all the suburbs into the city centre, and then you could get on another tram to go back out to another suburb. It just worked. The way what's happened since 1980 with having all these out of town shopping centres, everything's fragmented, the bus service don't work. So what they're having to do is, like Sheffield Mayor is bringing all the bus service back under their control. And it's the same with the town centres. We shouldn't have had Meadowhall built. I think it was originally being built as a prison.
That's Stone Island.
Is that Stone Island?
So that's it really. I always think it looks right bleak down this end of Sheffield now. It seems so dead to how I remember it. So if you can like the video, follow the channel, and click on notifications for new videos. But I thought that's a full walk from one end of Sheffield. I've done it on a reasonable warm day, on a day when the snooker was on, when United's at home, so the supporters are coming through town. So I can't give you a more realistic view of Sheffield.